The Braves were busy on Wednesday, trading for Mauricio Dubón and re-signing Raisel Iglesias. Here's what Alex Anthopoulos said about the moves. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Thursday, November 20th, your source for news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, BravesToday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. We're proudly part of the Bleav podcast network and presented to you by FanDuel. Atlanta sports fans, things have not gotten easier for us. Michael Penix of the Falcons is out for the year. Knee surgery on a partially torn ACL. Kirk Cousins is now the starter. FanDuel has Atlanta's regular season win total coming in now at 6 wins. So, really feels like Raheem Morris might not be around in 2026. If you're ready to get started with FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today. Busy day. Busy day for the Falcons for the Braves on Wednesday. Sorry, they did a surprising number of things for one off-season day, right? They announced in the morning that lefty Ryan Rollison had been acquired by the Braves from the Rockies via trade. He was DFA'd on Tuesday in the Rule 5 protection deadline. Atlanta did cash considerations to get him. They also announced that they are playing in the Little League Classic next year. So every year, 2 MLB teams go to Williamsport, Pennsylvania during the Little League World Series, and they play a game on Sunday in the ballpark there. Regulation MLB size. The crowd is full of Little League teams and local families and stuff. They'll do that in August against the Brewers. But the much bigger news last night was 2 separate transactions that kind of came back to back. I want to say within an hour of each other, maybe less than that. They re-signed Raisel Iglesias to a 1-year, $16 million deal. And then they traded for Mauricio Dubón, the utility man, from the Astros. We had a chance to talk to Alex Anthopoulos last night for about 30 minutes via Zoom to break down both of these moves. So I wanted to bring you a couple clips, what he said, my thoughts, observations from it, and a little bit of analysis on these moves, because it was surprising to see Dubón. We got a report in the morning from Mark Bowman that they had reached out to the Astros about Dubón, but there was no word there as to what his role was going to be. And we still don't know what his role was going to be. Anthopoulos told us last night that if he needs to play shortstop, they're confident he can do it. Quote, "We feel comfortable with him at shortstop. I asked him tonight, how comfortable are you there? Our underlying data on him at shortstop is good and strong." And the publicly available data that we have from StatCast and things like that is probably a generation behind what MLB teams have access to. But Dubón had a +8 outs above average mark at shortstop in 206 innings in 2025. 99th percentile in range, 87th percentile in arm strength. He graded out positively in all 4 directions at shortstop. So moving towards third, moving towards first, moving in, moving back. But Anthopoulos told Dubón and then told us that he doesn't know what Dubón is going to do next season. That they are in no way done, and so they don't know what his role is. Here's Mark Bowman of MLB.com asking Anthopoulos that, and Anthopoulos' answer.
Is it best to just say that his role will be determined on who else, how the rest of the shortstop market develops?
Well, I would say shortstop. I would just say his role will be determined on what else we do this winter. So, and also even in spring, I told him the same thing. I said, I have no idea what the roster is going to look like come spring training. I have no idea what it'll look look like in spring training or coming out of spring or during the season. But the fact that he has the ability to literally play every position. The only one I guess I don't know of is catch, but and I bet you if he wanted to, he could probably do that as well. So knowing he has the flexibility and the athleticism and the ability to do all that stuff, it just gives us so many options this winter. So we'll see, but he's going to get in there. I mean, Walt's going to get him in there regardless of what we do, just because he fits in all kinds of places. And again, just even specifically the ability to hit left-handers as well. So he just does a lot of things, from the run tool to the contact to the lefties to playing good defense at a lot of positions. It's a really, to me, it's a winning player, and it's a nice piece to have on a contending club.
This is like Mauricio Dubón is a guy that Atlanta's needed for a long time, right? You heard Anthopoulos kind of touch on it there. He can play a lot of different positions. And I have a clip all about AA going on the versatility. He played every single position last season but catcher. He's done everything. He's very good at them all, right? He's played center field. He's played both left and right. He's played first, second, third. He's played short. This is what we've been asking for a while, right? With Walt Weiss signaling that they are interested in maybe rotating a little bit more and giving guys a little more time off, probably outside of Matt Olson. I'm sure Olson's going to play every day because Weiss isn't going to be the one to break that streak. And I think Weiss actually said that in one of the press conferences. It makes sense to find a guy that can play everything. And Hey was very explicit. It is everything. They love his versatility. They love what he can do. I've got that clip here. Hang on just a second.
The appeal with Dubon is he can play everywhere, right? He's a Swiss Army. He's a true Swiss Army knife. He can play everywhere. He protects you at a lot of spots. And he's a good defender at almost every spot. So high energy guy, great teammate, has speed, bat the ball, great contact. So, I told him, I said, I don't know what your role is going to be yet. Walt talked to him as well. But the fact that we have the flexibility to do all kinds of things with him. So he can play all over the infield, play all three outfield spots. So we'll just see how the rest of the offseason goes. But we know that in light of the injuries we've had and so on, he hits left-handers well. There's just a lot of fits from just a player. There's a lot of places to put him in and where he can impact us. So, we feel comfortable with him at shortstop. I asked him tonight, how comfortable are you there? And our underlying data on him at shortstop is good and strong, but I think he's good at second, good at third, good in the corners, could play center field. We like the contact and the speed as well. So just a good piece. You're going to need that over the course of the year. We've had a bunch of injuries the last few years, and the fact that he does it and he's a phenomenal teammate, just a great fit for us.
Putting some context to some of the things that Anthopoulos said, because obviously, you can say you like all of this stuff, but the data backs all of that up. Ability to make contact in the zone. Dubon was at a 90% mark last year, 90.3%. When he swung at pitches in the strike zone, he made contact, right? MLB average is 82%. So he's much better than average. Now, I will say he is not as good offensively as he's been in the past. He hit 278 in 2023. He hit 241 last year. And some of that, it almost feels like maybe he does need to settle for a little more whiff so that he's not making suboptimal contact. I did notice that his squared up rate isn't as good as it was. His kind of sweet spot rate, not always getting the ball in the air. I do think they're going to talk to him a little bit about maybe trying to, yes, cut down on the whiff, but also maybe make more optimal contact. But Anthopoulos is not kidding when he says the contact ability is really good. Base running, his speed, he is an above average speed-wise, 65th percentile, 28 feet per second. And there was a comment in there from Anthopoulos about he gives you protection at multiple different positions, right? Shortstop, center field are both premium positions, and he's shown he can play those defensively at a very high level. So you are now, if there is an injury, you are protected at those positions. And I really don't feel like this was something that the Braves just kind of quickly rushed into this fall, or, this winter, looking for upgrades. AA said they've been working on these since mid-season. For Dubón, quote, "We probably touched base with the Astros in various forms a little bit last summer. We checked in a little bit, then again early in the offseason, and today it came together. The Astros weren't in a position to move him, but we spent time on him last summer, beginning of the offseason, had some conversations, there wasn't anything there, and then finally today it came together." To explain why the Astros would be willing to get rid of him, this is a money thing in every sense of the imagination. This is a money thing for the Astros. Their payroll was estimated to be pushing up, when you factor in all of their arbitration deals, and they have a lot of them, somewhat closer to the luxury tax deadline, the luxury tax limit, right? And so what they were trying to do was, by trading Mauricio Dubón, because in arbitration, he's projected to make something like just under $6 million in his final year of team control before he goes to free agency. They instead replace him with a guy making like $1 million in Nick Allen. And so because they were willing to make this move, and they'll have Allen as a backup, that means they don't have to trade first baseman Christian Walker. They don't have to trade Isaac Paredes. They have Carlos Correa, but they have some money coming in for Carlos Correa from Minnesota. They'll have Jose Altuve back, who can play second or play left. He was one of the worst defensive left fielders in baseball, if I remember right, with a terrible arm. It's not quite Ozzie Albies, but it's close. So this was a money thing for the Astros. They have a little defensive protection if Jeremy Pena misses time. They can throw out Nick Allen out there to do well. And I don't mind this deal from Atlanta's perspective if you get a shortstop. And you heard the quote from Anthopoulos. We don't know what his role is until we get through the rest of the offseason. If Mauricio Dubón is your starting shortstop on opening day, I'm going to be disappointed. But if he is a high-quality utility player who can play 5 days a week at 5 different positions, can fill in for anybody who gets hurt and misses time, then this is a fantastic deal to set the Braves up for 2026. In just a minute, let's talk about Raisel Iglesias, because this is also a really big deal. I love the fact that he is back. And this is another thing that the Braves have been working on for quite a while. We'll break that down next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at In-Case Cards. They have a new giveaway that ends today. This one gives you a chance to create something unforgettable. They're celebrating the athletes, parents, coaches, collectors, and fans who deserve their moment in the spotlight. Go to X, to Twitter, to In-Case Cards, NCASC_cards. Reply to their pinned giveaway post and tag your MVP, somebody who you think deserves their own custom in-case card. You need to be following them to qualify. But the winning duo will get a free custom in-case card, designed, printed, slabbed, and shipped. No catch, no purchase needed. You just need to be following In-Case Cards on X. Be in the US. They'll choose the winner at random. The giveaway ends today, November 20th. You could walk away with a premium custom card that captures your MVP story. And if you don't win the contest, you can use promo code Braves today at ncasecards.com, ncasccards.com for 20% off. Again, that's ncasecards.com, ncasccards.com, promo code Braves today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. Let's talk about bringing back Raisel Iglesias, because there's been a lot of talk. Obviously, clearly, you needed relievers. You needed a closer. and they are not done. They said, like, they are not done. I might have that clip somewhere. I'm not sure. But either way, they still need more in the bullpen, and they know that. But bringing back Iglesias, the reason that AA did this was pretty clear.
We felt like we were going to want him back. We knew that that was going to be a process to work through. But again, he had a rough beginning of the year, but all the underlying stuff was very good. So, we always had intentions to bring him back. We didn't know when it would get done, how long it would take. I think staying with the same team makes it easier for that to happen. Sometimes when you cut the cord and people move on to other places, there's hard feelings, things like that, all that kind of stuff. So we definitely felt like our best opportunity to bring him back, knowing we had every intention to be competitive again and get back to the postseason in 26, was to have him on this roster and continue to watch him and continue to see him throwing the ball well. So it's important. You don't know the timing of things you're going to get done. We needed to address closer one way or the other. And who better than someone that we know? We know he fits in the clubhouse. We know the health. We know the makeup. We know the ability. He's such a great fit for us. And look, he wanted to be here. I mean, I don't speak for him, but I think, his goal and his first choice was back in Atlanta. So we're glad it's done. And, he's just a great fit for us.
It was very clear on listening to Alex Anthopoulos that this is something they've wanted to do for a while. He mentioned, over the summer, they knew they wanted to bring back Iglesias for 26. And it almost sounded like they were a little bit okay with the fact that he didn't move at the deadline. And you heard AA say that. When guys move out, sometimes there's hard feelings, things might not work out, and you can't bring them back. The offers they got at the deadline were not anything where they were having to make a conscious sacrifice of talent to move Iglesias. Quote, those deals were more salary dump deals, just giving the guy away and saving salary. If the net return is just a non-prospect or a guy that we don't think is going to impact us, and then also what we felt would have impacted our ability to sign him back. He did also say that they were discussing a one-year deal the entire time. So this is something Iglesias was okay with a one-year deal. I know there was a lot of rumors or projections out there that he was going to get 2 or 3 years. This is a one-year deal. It was always going to be a one-year deal from Atlanta's side. And we got reporting from Francis Romero, Spanish language reporter, that both the Blue Jays and the Dodgers also offered $16 million on a one-year deal. And he declined both of those to come back to Atlanta. So Iglesias chose to be here. Now, could Atlanta, if they really wanted him, could they have forced the issue by offering him more money? Yes, they could have. But the point is, Iglesias chose to be here. And when you look at his time in Atlanta, it's hard to argue that, yes, the first half of the year was tough. But one, he rebounded really well. He finished with 29 saves last year, 4th in the National League. Converted each of his final 18 opportunities from July 28th to the end of the season. That was the longest streak in baseball. And over his final 45 games, he pitched to a 1.25 ERA, including allowing 1 earned run. I believe it was his last, in the months of August and September combined. What's wild is since he debuted with the Braves on August 5th, 2022, which was after the trade deadline, they got him from the Angels, remember? 222 appearances, a 2.35 ERA. That is the lowest ERA for any reliever in the National League who has that many appearances. 253 career saves. He is 5th among active relievers behind Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrell, Aroldis Chapman, and then he's tied with Edwin Diaz. So just absolutely bonkers how good he was late in the year. I know he struggled early, but just absolutely wild how good he was later. And it's honestly, this is kind of a big deal. They're not done. They're absolutely not done in the bullpen. The quote here from AA on the bullpen, quote, I think having the anchor in the bullpen, it just sets things up. It helps the manager. I'm sure Walt would agree with that. I don't want to speak for him. But knowing that your ninth inning is settled, and then you can build around that, behind that, and so on. Obviously, we've got Dylan Lee, who's back, and a lot of other guys, but we still have other work to do. I mentioned this at the GM meetings. We need a lot of relievers. Our plan is not to just get one reliever and be done. We're going to need to do more. How that's going to present itself, who, what, when, where, I don't know yet. But closer is definitely the anchor, and you definitely want to get that solved. So, yes, Iglesias is back. No, they are not done in the back end. You're going to see at least one guy, maybe two, possibly even more than that. Some of that depends on health, right? We got an update on Joe Jiménez. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Atlanta clearly needs more right now because in the pen, Iglesias, Dylan Lee, and then Aaron Bummer. And since Joe Jiménez is a toss-up, after that, you're looking at, Dylan Dodd, Jose Suarez, Joey Wentz. Like, your high-leverage guys, you don't have a ton of high-leverage options here. I mean, do you maybe call up a Deisabel Hernandez to be one of those guys? Do they think they can trust him already? Right? Hayden Harris didn't get a whiff on his fastball in a limited major league time last year. Do they think that he can take a legitimate leverage role in the pen? Feels like it's a little too early for that. Roldy Munoz, 3 2/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, 5 runs. I mean, they need more. How many that is remains to be seen. I feel like we're probably looking at one more notable signing in the pen, and then one more frugal signing as you get closer to spring training or even when pitchers and catchers report, and there's a guy out there who doesn't have a job and they feel like they can get a discount on. We see that every year. Sometimes it's a guy in spring training. They signed Adam Duvall with like a week left in spring training because they got him for a good deal because he didn't have a job. So at least one, probably multiple. But again, some of that does depend on the health of Joe Jiménez. And we got updates on Holmes, on Jiménez, on Ronaldo Lopez. We'll break all those down next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. The World Series odds on FanDuel. Shout out to Braves Today sponsor FanDuel. They're sitting at plus 2,000. They've kind of made a little bit of distance now on all those guys behind him, right? On the Padres, the Brewers, the Cubs, that little cluster of National League teams that Atlanta was kind of grouped in the middle of. They've made a little bit of space now. And so your tiers, if you will, your contending tiers in the National League, the Dodgers are clear and, just above everybody else. Plus 360, they are number one for contenders for the World Series, period. Tier 2 is the Phillies and the Mets, plus 1,000, plus 1,100. Tier 3 starts with the Atlanta Braves, and then behind them, Padres, Brewers, Cubs. Fourth best odds in the National League feels like that's probably the right place as of right now. I question whether the Mets should be third. They're looking at a lot of changes at a fire sale or whatever. But a lot of that also does depend on the health of a lot of these guys that you got. That we talked about last night. On Jiménez, quote, Joe got a knee cleanup and we're going to know more as we get later in the winter here, so I don't have anything yet. I was actually talking to our staff today, and it's just too early to tell in terms of a timeline. We're still pretty far from spring training, but I think by the time we get to the end of December, another month from now into January, we'll have a much better sense of, okay, is he starting spring training on time? How is he doing? How is he feeling? All that kind of stuff. So we'll know more in about a month or two. So the fact that Jiménez had the cleanup procedure about a month or whatever so ago, and they're going to know, January or so, is he going to be ready for spring training? That's why I feel like if you get a third bullpen signing, because it's clear you're going to get at least one more. If you get a third bullpen signing, it's probably not until after we get that update. Because if you have a fully healthy Joe Jiménez, if they think, hey, he started spring training on time, he's had plenty of time to recover, he is good, then that acquisition that you make can be somebody with options. It can be somebody who is, who can go move up and down. It can be somebody who is maybe more projection versus consistent proven performance. But the second signing is going to definitely have to be proven performance, right? You can't do like last offseason where you grab a bunch of minor league deals and hope somebody comes out of it. You got to get a guy who is proven. Kyle Finnegan is who I'd love to go grab. We've Pete Fairbanks. There's an option out there. The Rays didn't want to keep him. Somebody who has been a closer in the past. You can sell them on a setup role, but has been a closer in case Iggy stumbles or gets hurt. That would be great. You do also have the possibility of maybe using Grant Holmes back there. AA was asked about Ronaldo Lopez and Grant Holmes. And with Ronaldo, expectation is no restrictions. He was throwing before the season ended. Everything's going well. And when AA spoke on this at the general manager meetings, AA said they were looking at him as a starter, right? Like they have not had discussions. He's open to being used in the bullpen if he needs to, but his preference is to be a starter, and they've not had discussions about him doing anything but starting. Grant Holmes is a little more of an unknown, but AA said that everything that they have, it's like as good of news as you could possibly have gotten. Quote, he's thrown, been up and down, and by that, AA's talking about an up-down where you throw, you sit down, and then you throw again. It simulates 2 innings. He's not saying he's been up and down as far as consistency. He's saying he's made it through an up-down, simulating multiple innings. Velocity is great. I mean, look, we'll find out when he gets into competitive games in spring, but it could not have gone better. He's talking about non-surgical rehab for the partially torn UCL. Right now, everything is pointing in a very optimistic way that he's going to get through this. Obviously, we're a long ways off of spring training games, all that kind of stuff, but we're really, really encouraged. And as a reminder, Grant Holmes would not be the only player that has had a partially torn ACL, or partially torn UCL. ACL's in the knee. Michael Penix is getting me here. A partially torn UCL and been able to rehab it and come back, including some different guys in our division. Aaron Nola of the Phillies back in 2016 had, quote, a low-grade UCL sprain and a flexor strain. It was like in August. They shut him down late in the year. He rehabbed it over the winter, and he came back and was fine. He made 27 starts the next year, and then in each of the 6 full seasons after that, so skipping 2020, he made 32 starts, never had an arm surgery. And Rick Kranitz, Atlanta's former pitching coach, who used to work in Philadelphia, gave Grant Holmes Aaron Nola's cell phone number, and they connected and they discussed it. And Holmes got a lot of really useful information from Aaron Nola on what that's like. There have been other guys who also rehabbed and came through. Roy Halladay, late Hall of Famer, Irvin Santana, Masahiro Tanaka. Like, there's been success stories of guys rehabbing a partial UCL tear and coming back without surgery. So all the news as of now is good on Grant Holmes. And I've talked about this a little bit, I think in the Discord, which if you're not subscribed, definitely check that out. Link is in the episode description, links in the show notes. A lot of great conversation going on in there. I talked a little bit about this, but it feels like the highest and best use of Grant Holmes is going to be as a utility pitcher. And that's what he called himself in 24 before he went to the rotation. A guy who can We saw this the final day of the season in 2024. He can take the ball and just give you 4 innings at random. He could go in a single inning leverage situation and get you out of it. He can take multiple innings in a blowout. Like, you lose your starter early. He can come in as the bulk guy behind that guy and cover multiple innings for you to bridge you into a normal bullpen game. As much as I want him to be a starter, if you have Reynaldo Lopez in the rotation, and AA touched on this, your rotation on paper is really, really good already. They still want to add to it. They still want to have that injury insurance. And part of the reason they got Ryan Rollison via trade was to have an optionable guy they can move back and forth to help cover innings. They didn't commit to him being a starter. I have a whole newsletter coming on this. I was writing it yesterday when the Dubón news broke. But the whole reason they got him was because he has options. They like his stuff, and they think that he can be useful to cover innings. Because right now in the pen, the only guy that you're projected to have that has options is Dylan Lee. So you need optionable relievers. And that's one of the big questions here is what's going to happen. I will say it was really interesting. There was a question in there about a 6-man rotation. And I've speculated a little bit because I know that Jeremy Hefner's a fan of 6-man rotations. I've speculated a little bit the Braves try this to start the year, right? Rather than kind of having to punt the question of does Hurston Waldrop start in the majors or start in AAA, you just have Sale, Swellenbach, Strider, Lopez, Waldrop in your ad, whether it's a free agent or it's a trade. You run a 6-man rotation and you run a man short in your pen. And AA, in essence, said he's wanted to do it for a while. Like, he actually said 5 years. But it's just really hard to do. Quote, you're going to have to go with a 7-man bullpen. And if you can pull it off, where you're going to get 6 starters that give you at least 5 innings, 6 innings and so on. The problem with it is you get a 2-inning start or a 1-inning start, 2 1/3, and you're playing 18 in a row, 20 in a row, whatever it is, you're cooked at that point. And so what Atlanta's done instead, because he calls it roster gymnastics. It's really hard to manage that because of the rule you can only option a guy down 5 times before he's exposed to waivers. And when he's down, he has to be down for 2 weeks and all of that. So what Atlanta's done, to quote Moneyball here, they've tried to recreate it in the aggregate. Quote, I do think there's real value to it, and you guys saw it in 2024 when we led all of MLB in ERA. We used the off days, we moved guys back, we really protected guys, and it worked well for us. It was challenging because we were shuttling guys in and out and putting spot starters in. From a roster gymnastics standpoint, that's what we call it, it was tough. You could only option guys 5 times a year. Once you option them, they're down for 2 weeks. You have to have enough depth to not only call somebody else, but it be a player of enough quality to not feel like you're throwing the game away. And it's something where you're going to see them do it at times, but they can't do it for the entire season. So there will be times when Atlanta runs, in essence, a 6-man rotation. Maybe Bryce Elder's the 6th guy. Maybe Hurston Waldrop's the 6th guy. And obviously, if an injury happens, you're covered, right? You've got an extra starter there. But they're not going to do it for the entire season. They can't. Instead, they're going to keep doing things like they do where they push certain guys back. Like Bryce Elder likes pitching on regular rest. He needs to be on regular rest. Sinker ballers just need to be on regular rest. Joe Simpson told me that one time. And so they're going to use days off. They're going to use spot starters and all of that to try to give guys extra rest. But they're not going to go strict full 6-man rotation. Quote, the alternative is to try and put in spot starters, and that's been our best attempt to do it and still be able to maintain a roster. So, Braves get Mauricio Dubón, Braves get Raisel Iglesias. They are very much not done. And because of the fact that you need so many pieces in the bullpen, because of the fact that Dubón can literally play anywhere, again, other than catcher, although AA says he probably could do it if you let him try, they feel like they have every opportunity open. That they can do moves at shortstop, they can do moves starting rotation, they can do moves in the bullpen. They can add a bat. There are no restrictions, and yesterday's moves do not in any way change what they are doing this winter. Adding Dubón, if he is a utility player for you, is an excellent move to have the team more resilient when injuries or slumps happen in 2026. If he's your starting shortstop, I have a problem. Every indication from Alex Anthopoulos is that is not the plan as of now. This has been Braves Today for Thursday, November 20th. We're going to come back tomorrow and look at the non-tender deadline. We've got a bunch of arbitration eligibles that have to be tendered a contract by Friday. We'll go through those guys and discuss, are they going to come back, or is there a chance that Atlanta non-tenders them, as well as look at some of the options from guys who were either DFA'd on Tuesday or could be non-tendered on Friday that Atlanta might want to go out and grab. In the meantime, do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, 5-star review would be fantastic. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we drop next episode, a short when breaking news happens, all that kind of stuff. Don't forget to check out the Discord. Again, links in the episode description, links in the show notes, and subscribe to us over at bravestoday.com. Free or paid, those help us out a ton. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.